or what we sometimes call habit patterns, or sometimes we call them knots. We're so used to being caught up in our struggle against life as it is that we often turn our practice into another form of struggle. If we take up this endeavor, we may find ourselves often wondering what we're doing and doubting ourselves. We're all good at finding ways of tying ourselves in knots, but if we continue to be curious and to apply the instructions we've been given, our mind's true nature becomes increasingly familiar. So she's saying that we are in mindfulness ever more often and conscious of what's going on in the moment. So let me invite you to relax your body. Put yourself in a position, either lying down or sitting up, that is conducive to meditation. And for starters, deepen our breathing. Take a full body breath and let it out. And another full body breath all the way down to our feet and let it out. Closing the eyes or leaving them open slightly, unfocused. Spine is erect but fluid. Hands are in a relaxed position or in a particular mudra, whatever you prefer. If you're sitting, your feet are on the ground. You may need to adjust your torso so it's absolutely right for you. Feel free to do that. And then after that, try to stay still if you can during the meditation. Staying still, not if there's an itch or a scratch or a muscle that's jumping, just breathe into it and try to stay as still as you can, which will deepen your experience. Going to the breath again, abdomen rising and falling. So, temples and chin and jaw and shoulders and belly relaxed. Arms and legs relaxed. First step for training our minds is awareness of breath. Breathing in, let us begin with the most essential life process, our breath. Breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. No forcing of the breath, just its natural, organic rhythm. In, out, deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. In a deep, slow, calm, ease, smile, release. Present moment, mindful moment. In a deep, slow, calmness, smiles, present moment, mindful moment. Please make sure you're muted. Continuing with the breath, the first step of training our mind. Breathing in, we use our in-breath to cultivate a feeling of joy for being alive and able to breathe. Breathing out, we know we are breathing out, and we know we are alive. Smiling, in, joy, out, we are alive. If you find your mind wandering, just bring it back to the first step, which is breathing and knowing we are breathing. And feel this in your whole body. Don't restrict it to your lungs and your belly. The whole body is breathing. The second step in training our minds is concentration. Breathing in, we go deeply into our breath, following our in-breath and our out-breath fully until no other thoughts are present. Concentrating on the breath. Breathing out from the beginning of my out-breath to the end of my out-breath. My mind is always with it. Therefore, mindfulness is uninterrupted, and the quality of our concentration is improved. In, diving deeply into our breath. Out, no other thoughts present. This is concentration. third step in training our mind is awareness of the body. We've already done some of that, but now we're going to breathe in and shift awareness from the breath to the entire body, making that breath, in case you're not already doing that. Breathing in, I am aware of my body. Breathing out, I am aware of my body. Mind and body become one reality. When our mind is with our body, we are well established in the here and the now. We are fully alive and can be in touch with the wonders of life that are available in ourselves and around us. This is how we stay in touch with our inner being and realize that we are not separate. Again, mind and body become one reality. When our mind is with our body, we are well established in the here and now. We are fully alive and can be in touch with the vastness of our inner being, which Thich Nhat Hanh calls the wonders of life that are available in ourselves and around us. Shifting from breath to entire body, mind and body, one reality. And the fourth step in training our minds is to release tension. Breathing in, we are aware of any tensions or tightness in our bodies that we were not aware of before we quieted our minds. Any tensions or tightness. When we are truly aware of our body, we notice there is some tension and pain, some stress. Breathing out, the tension and pain have been accumulating for a long time, and our bodies suffer. And our mind is here to help release it. In, awareness of tension. Out, releasing. And prior to inviting the bell, I will leave you with a quote from Plum Village Dharma teacher, Brother Phap Hai. The heart of meditation is learning to open a listening space both within ourselves and within our lives. A listening space. Would everyone kindly mute themselves? Okay, that went away. That was the railroad station again, the tunnel. Oh boy, if it's not one IT glitch, it's another. Isn't that just life? So I find this one quite a powerful. Okay, Bo thinks it's Roger's audio. I know you're having internet problems, Roger. I know it's been shut down from time to time. So we'll find out, won't we? So I find this, it's so clear. Ty is such a clear and simple teacher. And his teachings run so deep. This is completely useful, and I hope that you'll use these 4 steps again and again. Now I will turn it over to Roger and the tunnel.
All right, thank you, Judith. It might help if you mute yourself too while I'm talking. So, how is my audio? Is everybody hearing me okay? Trying to look. I have to switch screens to find out. Okay. All right then. Well, great. Yeah, this was a beautiful meditation. Thank you, Judith. I was thinking about this and what to talk about this morning. I wanted to start with the breathing, because breathing is such a vital part of our practice, of contemplative practice. I really enjoyed the part about feeling fully alive. You know, to be fully alive, we have to feel more fully free to feel, you know, the depth of our aliveness, the depth of our being, and to be free to interact in an uninhibited or more spontaneous way with our life, both internally and externally. I thought I would read something from one of my teachers, Suzuki Roshi, famous Japanese Zen master, probably the most famous Japanese Zen master to come into America anyway. On breathing, he says, when we practice Zazen, our mind always follows our breathing. Not always, but, you know, ideally. When we inhale, the air comes into the inner world. When we exhale, the air goes out into the outer world. The inner world is limitless, and the outer world is also limitless. We say inner world or outer world, but actually there is just one world. In this limitless world, our throat is like a swinging door. The air comes in and goes out like someone passing through a swinging door. If you think I breathe, the I is extra. There is no you to say I. What we call I is just a swinging door, which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. It just moves, that is all. When your mind is pure and calm enough to follow this movement, there is nothing, no I, no world, no mind, nor body, just a swinging door. Okay. So, you know, I've read this many, many times over the years. And more, I'm beginning, you know, I still feel like a beginner. Suzuki Roshi talks about beginner's mind. So when I read this, it reminds me of beginner's mind, what beginner we still all are. But just think for a minute, or contemplate for a minute on the inner world and the outer world being both limitless. So when you think of something being limitless, having no boundaries, you know, it's like our experience of space. Probably all of us have at one time wondered about the boundlessness of space. It's like, how many limitless worlds can there be? In our actual experience, if a world is limitless, there can only be one with no limits, because if there was more than one, both the one and the other would have to limit themselves in some way to be separate. So anyway, that's a little bit of a mind boggle, but it's, it's like, how can we not be one, is what Tai is saying, and what Suzuki Roshi is saying. The inner world and the outer world are both limitless. A couple of techniques that have helped me over the years with breathing and connecting with the limitless world, both internal and external. One is a phrase by Kwang Roshi, who actually was Suzuki Roshi's main disciple. And he has this phrase called breath sweeps mind. And he's a calligrapher, and he has these calligraphy paintings, of a sweeping motion. And I remember when I wrote this poetry book, one morning I was out and I had my camera, and there was this beautiful cloud expression. It was like these two big sweeping red clouds were like coming down and just coming out. I'd never seen anything like it, so I ran in and got my phone and took a picture of it and put it in the book. But there's this cosmic sweeping motion, if we think of our life force as kind of overflowing with aliveness, the essence of our being, and just letting go into that flow, that was helpful to me. The other one was from another Zen teacher, and I forget her, Willa Baker, a friend of mine that Judith knows, Larry, told me about her. And she had one where you imagine the hara, or your abdomen, where we breathe into in meditation. Think of it as a magnet, and then think of the thought energy. Thought is basically energy. If you think of the thought energy flowing down with the out breath, and then coming back up with the in breath, think of it as a magnet. And then all the thoughts, the energy of thought, and you can include the energy of sensations too, because, of course, there's always many sensations in our breathing.
Okay, Casper.
And that energy kind of merges together, and then it just sort of comes down like it's a drawn to the belly. And it really helps to withdraw our attention from the thinking or feeling itself, and it just becomes that same type of sweeping flow, a magnetic type of sweeping flow. So, yeah, the breathing. And then with concentration, I believe Tai, he says here, breathing in, we go deeply into our breath, following in-breath and out-breath fully until no other thoughts are present. That can be, without some commentary on it, that can be confusing, because you can think that means you're supposed to somehow be concentrated in a way that you're no longer experiencing thinking, which is not the case. I don't think he means that, but you could easily interpret it that way, as you're supposed to reach a state where there's no thinking. No. Like we were saying, thought is energy. So the energy of thinking, when you think of it as energy, it's always moving. Thoughts are always moving away from us, are always arising and dissolving again. But just let that happen, and you're still going to experience thinking, because our heart beats, our mind thinks, our body breathes all on its own. You're still going to experience the energy of thinking. Eventually, you experience more fragments of thoughts that don't follow a logical pattern or anything, kind of like flashing dream states or something. But thinking is still there. But when you let go of your ideas about it, it's no longer thinking. You don't think of it as, so that's what he means by no thoughts presence. Means you're not, when he says no thought is present, it means you're not paying attention to the content of the thinking. You're just letting the energy of thinking dissipate, because it's always coming up and dissipating. So that's something to be aware of. So, yeah, the other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, in terms of training the mind, we're so used to, we're used to our normal educational system, which is kind of basically a didactic process, a technical, mechanical learning process. So training the mind in that way is not really what happens in meditation. It's more relaxing back into letting our attention fall back or flow down into the source of our attention, the source of our being. And so basically what I've been taught in my early years in Zen is that the real teacher is the Buddha mind, is our true nature. That's the real teacher. And, great teachers like Tai have realized that. They realize they're always a child. And, one of Tai's great enlightenment experiences that I'm always remembering was, when he talks about the death of his mother and how much pain he was in. And he went through a long, long period of grieving because he had a very close, intimate relationship with her that, I wish we all could have had that. But, and then one day he had a great enlightenment experience and he walked out into the moonlight and he realized that his mother was always with him, that she would never leave him. And the moonlight itself was his mother. And when he was stepping on the earth, he was stepping in the steps of all his ancestors, and all his descendants would be stepping in his footsteps. So there was this real overall vast connectedness that he felt. That really embodied, he really embodied the cosmic body as his body. So there's no longer a separation between his mother and the moonlight. So the cosmos was his mother. The cosmos was his body that couldn't be removed, would never be removed from him. It was like it's so close you can't separate yourself from it. That was his intimate experience. Closer than close, we say, because it's like you can't be separated from it. It's what supports us and provides the aliveness and joy we feel in just being. So gradually we move more and more towards a groundedness, a joyfulness, and a compassion practice that we learn to gradually, integrate into our whole life. So we're no longer fixated on the physical body, like we're in this container of self in this separate body mind. Not disembodied, but free to be embodied as a person. I've never met a really good teacher that doesn't have that freedom of being embodied in a body, but not fixated on that. The inner world is limitless, the outer world is limitless. It's just one whole world and we can freely move in it. So we're not disembodied when we're not attached to the physical body, we're not disembodied, we just are, without limits. But still free to be a person while we're still a person, kind of thing. So, I guess that's, and to follow up a little bit on training the mind, it's like, so our Buddha nature that Tai realized, the mother, the divine mother, he realized through his great enlightenment, he realized that his mother all the time was really the divine mother, being human mother to him. The divine mother of the cosmos was living through his mother. And she obviously, I think, probably had a much, much more deep embodiment of that herself, in order that, he missed her so much because she was so there for him, kind of thing. So when I think of concentration, remember, it's not like disciplining our thoughts. We're not the one that concentrates. We are opening up ourselves through deep relaxation and contemplation and being willing to explore, but we're not the controller. We're not the one who's going to do the disciplining or do the training. The training is done by our essential being, our Buddha nature itself. And the human teacher is an embodiment of that. Maybe we could talk more about the student-teacher relationship, but I don't want to take too much time this morning on that. But the main thing is, don't try to discipline your mind, because that's the ego in disguise. When we try to discipline ourselves by ourselves, or we try to get something from the teacher or from our practice for our own separate body minds interests, that's what we need to be aware of and be compassionate with, but not to keep following that path. So, all right, so go ahead and let's let other people unmute and join the discussion. We've got more people today, so we might want to see who wants to. How's Timothy doing back there? It looks like he might be in samadhi.
And I have a question. This is, I'm wondering if you all notice that all the important teachings end with letting go or releasing. You ever notice that?
Yep.
That's my question.
Well, yeah, because especially in our culture, we're so conditioned to being the controller, to being the one that concentrates. And our self-consciousness is so wrapped up in attainment, in personal aggrandizement. You can see it in the, I'm biased, but you can see a lot of it in the Republican Party now in our, it's like they're anti-COVID type, or they're pro-COVID policies. People don't really, there can be a surge in our egotism, our overall, the zeitgeist of our consciousness is becoming pretty narcissistic in a lot of ways. So we have to let go of that before we can receive the spirit beneath the facade, beneath the personal identity, before we can really grow and have our consciousness evolve. We need to let go of that. I think that's why there's so much emphasis on letting go.
I wanted to thank you for your line, Roger. Also, whatever it was, that's the ego in disguise. I think we need to pay attention to that line, because it was very helpful. I appreciated hearing that line. It applies to many, many things, I'm sure. That's the ego in disguise. So a full surrender to breathing, focusing on the breath. I love the meditation this morning too. Is where the goal is, just where the goal is, and let it go. Let it go. So, you go with the skies. Thank you. That's really
Anybody else have any comments, questions, issues?
normally I never speak to parents speak twice, that's unusual. Judy, I just want to ask how you're feeling. Your name is still on my instant feelings. How you're doing? Kat, your name is still on my instant feelings too. I so remember when I very first saw your face, I thought, what a lovely thing to have in the group, a young, healthy, beautiful young woman, whatnot. Come to find out how wrong I was with regard to that. So I thank you, but your name is there, so I get too excited every day, and I wish you wellness fully, and just fully, Pat. And Judith, your name is on too, and Laura. So shall I leave them both on? What is your thought?
I'm so sorry. I didn't hear that. I couldn't make out what you're saying, Adrian. Maybe Roger could reword it?
Yeah, Adrian was asking, how are you? Because you're on her list of people who need who could use some prayers for their physical condition?
Well,
And Laura too.
I don't know for sure. I have not received the results of the heart monitor yet, but every other test that I've taken has not shown a blockage anywhere. So we're waiting to find out what's causing these TIAs. I'm not having them right now because I'm on a statin and a baby aspirin. So I think that was sufficient to stop them from happening. Here's hoping. But I also, if I put myself in harm's way by indulging anxiety and tension during this move, then I'm going to be in trouble. So I have found a way, as I mentioned in my letter to you, to see this as a beautiful unfolding, less like a mountain of work and more like a cup of tea. And it'll be several cups of tea, but that's the attitude I'm taking toward it. So I feel hopeful and good. Thank you for asking, Adrian.
And how about Laura? Because Laura's name is on also, your daughter.
Please leave her on the list. Yeah, I don't know what's going on right now, but it's not necessarily positive. So. Oh, but I have to share some other news. I just found out that for the second time in my life, I'm going to be a great-grandmother. Hallie, my younger daughter, Hallie's older daughter, is pregnant. They've been trying for a while, so we're all just jubilant. And I wanted to share that joy with you. That supersedes everything else, it's just pure joy.
Good morning. I had a few thoughts about the meditation. A week or two ago, after a meeting, a fella came to me and said, "Oh, nobody really understands how much our subconscious mind drives our conscious mind." Pretty intriguing thought to think of and to watch myself, see and hear what isn't really something I'm consciously thinking. Is something, I can't explain it, but it's interesting anyway. And I don't know. Not in a fog, but I'm pretty sleepy, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you all for being here.
As a psychologist, Roger, do you have any thoughts on that?
Too many, but I'll just limit a few here. Yeah, well, the whole field of psychotherapy, psychoanalysis, has evolved over the last 100 years or so. And in terms of releasing subconscious or unconscious forces within us. In fact, I've tuned into some scientific podcasts about how I don't know anything about the technology and how they get it to work, but they've kind of proved that parts of our being know what we're going to do before we decide to do it. If there's a way you can monitor physiologically what's going on, that it's going to happen, and so that some of the scientists are saying, well, this is absolute proof that there's no personal free will kind of thing, because when we enter the discussion about whether there's free will or not, people are talking about, most people, if you haven't really thought about it, you're assuming that our separate body mind, this container of self that we think we are, with something behind the eyes that is controlling things, we think that we have free will. But apparently, and all the major teachers have been saying, no, that's our Buddha nature is totally free. There's no limits on what we, on what's possible there. But the personal identity isn't really there as a separate entity. So how can it have? It can't possess anything because it's not made of. It's made of things other than self. Like Ty will say that all the time. Our self is made of components of not self. So, which is another way of saying we're interconnected with everything, and everything causes everything. So there's no separate entity in here causing our behavior, kind of thing.
What a relief that is, Roger. Thank you.
This is Norma bowing in, and there's just so much to think about this morning. Judith, thank you for that beautiful meditation, and I love your attitude about tea. I was watching, I guess it was All Things Bright and Beautiful. I never remember the title of that. I've read so many of the books, and they talked about, and they showed tea drinking all the time. And I loved it. And I guess that's the English way, but I love your attitude about it. And I look forward to having lots of cups of tea with you. And Roger, your talk was amazing. I just, oh my goodness, I just love what you were alluding to. And also just thinking about that story about Ty and the cosmos. And I mean, that really hit something for me. I actually wrote a haiku yesterday because I'm so excited about finding this family I didn't know I have, and hearing from people from all over that are, I mean, not only do I have a family, I have an incredible family who are doing wonderful things in the world, who are intelligent, who are, I mean, it's just, and everyone's so excited, to reconnect. And I wrote a poem that had a haiku, which I don't have in front of me. I've been looking for it. It must be in my studio, but that included the moon and the stars and dreams, and how sometimes putting things into words makes them come true. And I've been writing about this family that I thought was killed for so many years, and here this is happening, and just that thought is so beautiful, about everything is one, really. And I really appreciate your talk. So thank you.
Anybody else just itching to get a word in here?
Often on, I'm not able to hear, but for some reason you hear clearly. Thank you for both the meditation and the dog. It was a lot to think about there, and I really like the analogy of the vastness and limitless space inside and out. And yesterday in the Sazenka, I was trying to kind of, to think of the vastness and spaciousness of, to try to kind of overcome the thinking mind that I was that I was experiencing. Anyway, I just, I don't have anything specific. Something came to mind. I just went to a Theosophical, once in a while I go to the Theosophical Society or a group, and the people there have a lot of interesting things to share, and the last couple of weeks ago, there was a doctor there who had been in the Korean War way back in the 50s, and he started to talk about having this experience where they were driving. He was being driven to find a restaurant somewhere in Korea, and a bunch of people came towards them with torches and all that. There was a lot of, they started to break the glass they were in a car, and they were surrounding the car and breaking the glass with the windows. They were very hostile, obviously. And he found himself separating from his body. He called it his astral body, and floating into space to a really, really high altitude, and watching from above everything that was happening. And he said at some point, he realized his predicament and decided to go back, or went back and to the situation. But he said, I wish I would have asked him if he was aware of his physical self, after, or aware of what had happened in the meantime, or there were some gaps there that I kind of wish I would have understood better. But anyway, it was interesting, because I have been hearing stories like that from other people, and I never had anything experienced like that, but I think is quite significant. He talked about other things, but I think that's probably enough for now. Thank you so much for your insights.
This is Judith. I want to thank you all for being here today. So wonderful to see your faces. Okay, so we're going to, Norma and I are going to close out, unless somebody else wants to speak before we do that. Okay. I have Belle, Norma,